Hey, now and future cultists. It's your host and cult leader, the Reverend Dr. Sarah Colin D. Terrio, Pontifex Maximus of the Cult of Copy. I'm here today on the public relations page for the Cult of Copy to share some tips with you on how you can make your information, your message sticky. Sticky is a buzzword for your audience. What I mean by sticky is it sticks in their brain. They'll remember it. They'll be better able to act on it. It is incorporated into their mind in such a way that they feel like it was their own idea. Obviously, if you are a persuader or influencer, this is a handy thing to be able to do, right? So, the first way, the obvious way that is possible to connect your information, no matter what it is, to something that's already in the reader's mind that makes it easier for them to retain it and act on it is metaphor and simile, right? So metaphor and simile, pretty standard things. You take something they don't know and you describe it in terms of something that they do know, and therefore make it easier for them to understand. There are millions of ways you can do metaphors. There's tons of books written on it. It's extremely powerful. In fact, one of the other ways that I'm going to tell you about in a minute that you can make your information sticky is sort of like a special case of metaphors, is one way to think of it. Another way to make your information sticky so that your audience will retain it and act on it is to make it in some way incomplete. We know because of the Zeigarnik effect in psychology that the mind has an affinity for incomplete sets of information, unfinished puzzles. The brain loves it. They get caught on it. They keep an open thread running in the CPU just to see how incomplete pieces of information are going to weigh out. So, two different ways that you can use incomplete information to your advantage when you're trying to convey messages to your audience. The first is to make any piece of information that you're giving them a multi-part thing that they need to consume, so that you have a cliffhanger, what's called a cliffhanger at the end, where before finishing what it is that you're giving them, you're telling them that it will come in a future message and they need to kind of chill out and wait for it to come. That one is easy and very powerful. An often overlooked one, though, is another technique used in storytelling a lot called in media res. And in media res is when you start your message or your information in the middle with things already going on. And the audience sort of has to pay attention and pick up clues and sort of wait for you to fill them in on what has happened before. The most famous example in pop culture would be the first Star Wars movie, not in episode number, but in release date. So the original Star Wars movie with Luke Skywalker, it begins in media res, where the princess's ship is already being overtaken by the Imperial battlecruiser, and Darth Vader is already capturing her. Over some plans that got, I don't know, man, we got to watch the movie and find out. That's how in media res works. So if you can use both of those together, in media res and cliffhangers, you can create an urgency in your audience to retain what you've said, and not only that, pay attention to future messages and have a desire to go back and catch up on messages that they have missed. So that one's super important to use in things like long-term email sequences or video series, things like that, right? Then we have what's called a non sequitur, which is when you interrupt what someone expects with something that does not logically follow. It's a term from logic, I believe, but technically I think of a non sequitur as, it's a turd in the punch bowl. It's something that doesn't belong. It's wacky sunglasses instead of the ones I normally wear, because these were just sitting in the car. I think they're my wife's. Well, I mean, I hope they're my wife's because they're not mine. But a non sequitur is a way to make your information stand out and capture attention in a field where everything sort of can seem boring, right? So if you want to get attention in a particular market, look at the market, figure out how everything is sort of the same in a way, and then position your thing in a way to break that pattern, and you will capture attention when you do so. Another thing you want to look into if you're interested in how to do this, it is called the von Restorf Effect in psychology, which is when you have a pattern made up of similar things, the thing that is not part of that pattern is what your brain will tend to focus on and remember. So if you're like shirt, shoes, pants, socks, hat, banana, t-shirt, underwear, you know, like people are going to focus on the banana and have trouble remembering all the other things that I say. They might remember that it's clothes, but they won't remember the details. The one that's going to stick in their head is the banana. So, non sequiturs. Then we have the special case of metaphor is the last one we're going to cover. It's experiential metaphor. So if you have a really good metaphor for explaining something to someone, if you can tie your information into their actual personal experience, and we'll talk about 2 ways to do it, it's really the most powerful way to get them to internalize and accept whatever information it is that you're giving them, and they're really going to have a hard time figuring out how that wasn't just something they knew all along, like how it wasn't just their own idea, because you've attached it, you've connected it in their brain to an experience that they actually had. Now, there's 2 different ways you can do this. You can use memory. So if you know your audience really well and they have sort of maybe cultural touchstones or regional touchstones, you know, like if you're a regional store, you can talk about like famous local sporting events as an example. That's something a lot of people will know about and have experienced. You can talk about pop culture. You can talk about current events. These are things that people all have a memory of. You can tap into like nostalgia is a really easy way to use people's memories to give them information and connect it to their past memories. But a cool trick you can do, this is one that's less used, is instead of connecting it to memory, you connect information to an experience that they have frequently. And then every time they have that experience, they will like be triggered and reminded of that piece of information. So for example, if you have, you see this a lot in infomercials where the product solves a specific problem, so they show you exaggerated instances of that problem occurring, so that the next time you spill your Cheetos all over the floor, you're going to wish you had that dinner tray that you saw the infomercial for. That's just one example, but like, if you sold a product that would help people maybe start their own business, and you talk to them about thoughts that they have on their drive, their commute into work, stuck in traffic, people driving badly, same 5 songs on the radio, billboards for things you can't afford to buy. You're just guessing, but that's a pretty typical experience for millions upon millions of people. And then what's going to happen is that the next time that person's in their car experiencing awful traffic that they hate, you know, seeing the billboards again and again, listening to the same 5 songs over and over again on the radio, they will remember what it is you were talking to them about, because you've called out things that they will experience again and again. So that's it. That's what I got for today. That is your little cult lesson in making your information sticky. In summary, you can use metaphors. That's the simplest one. You can use incomplete information and use cliffhangers and in media res as a way to get people sucked in to a series of messages. Then you have non sequiturs, which are a way to interrupt other information that they're consuming and get them to pay attention to you. And then we have experiential connections that you can do, either connect to people's memories or connect to experiences they have again and again in order to make them remind themselves of you and your message. Hopefully that helps. This is Colin Terrio from the Cult of Copy. Have a great day, and I will see you again in another live video real soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.